Have you felt that burning poison coursing through your veins? That searing sensation that paralyzes you when you need to do something important? When you have to speak, act, take a risk? What you're about to discover will send chills down your spine. Because that poison isn't poison. It's pure energy. Energy you've always mistaken for poison. Eckhart Tolle spent 20 years deciphering this hidden code of the human body. But I'll reveal it to you in less than 3 minutes. And when you're finished listening, you won't be the same person. Because there's a specific moment when fear transforms. A moment that 99% of people miss because they're running away from the feeling instead of into it. But not you. You're about to learn the most potent alchemy of human existence. It all began when Tolle found himself facing an audience of 3,000 people. He had to speak. And instead of fleeing the fear that was literally crushing his chest, he did something revolutionary. He stopped, he breathed, and he said to the fear, "Show me what you have for me." And in that moment, the impossible happened. The fear transformed into pure electrical energy, as if a lightning bolt had shot through his body from the inside, but not a destructive lightning bolt. A lightning bolt that fuels. Want to know the secret? Fear and excitement have the same chemical signature in your body, the same adrenaline surge, the same racing heart, the same muscle tension. The only difference is the interpretation you give to these sensations. If you interpret that surge as danger, it becomes paralyzing fear. If you interpret it as preparation, it becomes explosive power. But how do you change your interpretation when terror is consuming you alive? Tolle discovered there's a magic phrase. A phrase that instantly reprograms your nervous system, but you have to say it at the exact moment the fear is about to explode. The phrase is, "Thank you for the energy." Seems too simple. Wait until you feel what happens in your body when you really say it. When you say "thank you for the energy" to fear, you're doing something neurologically revolutionary. You're reclassifying adrenaline from an escape substance to performance fuel. You're telling your primal brain, this isn't a threat, this is preparation for something great. And your body listens, immediately. But there's an even deeper level. Tolle discovered that fear always contains a hidden message, a message that tells you exactly what you need to do to grow. If you're afraid of public speaking, the message is, it's time to let your voice be heard. If you're afraid of leaving a job you hate, the message is, it's time to follow your true purpose. If you're afraid to say "I love you," the message is, it's time to be vulnerable. Fear isn't protecting you from danger. It's showing you the path to your greatest self. But there's a specific technique for decoding this message in real time. A technique Tolle developed that will forever change your relationship with anxiety. When you feel fear coming, instead of resisting or running away, do this. Put a hand on your chest. Feel your heart racing. And ask, what do you want me to become? Not what do you want me to avoid, but what do you want me to become? And listen, because the answer will always come, in the form of intuition, of an image, of a sudden certainty about what you need to do. Fear is your personal evolutionary advisor. It pushes you towards versions of yourself you haven't yet had the courage to be. But there's still a secret. The secret of secrets that Tolle considers the most powerful of all. The most intense fear always appears before the greatest breakthroughs. Always. If you're feeling a fear that seems insurmountable, it means you're on the verge of something extraordinary. Fear is proportional to the greatness of what awaits you. It's as if the universe is testing how much you really want that transformation, how much you're willing to walk through fire to become who you're destined to be. And here we arrive at the moment of truth. The moment you decide whether to remain in your familiar comfort zone or cross the threshold that fear is guarding. Because every time you transform fear into action, every time you use that poison as fuel, something irreversible happens. You become stronger, not just mentally, energetically. You develop what Tolle calls fearlessness, not because you stop feeling it, but because you learn to recognize it for what it truly is. Your internal navigation system that shows you exactly where you need to go to grow. And when you reach this level of understanding, when you fully integrate this truth into your body, something magical happens. You start seeking fear. You start getting excited when you feel it coming, because you know it means something incredible is about to happen in your life. That substance that once paralyzed you now electrifies you. That signal that once made you run away now makes you run towards opportunity. You've transformed your greatest enemy into your most faithful ally. And now, When you feel that familiar sensation in your veins, that hot surge that runs through your body, you know exactly what to do. You smile, you breathe deeply, and you say, "Thank you for the energy," because now you know it's not poison, it's fuel, and you're ready to fly. But wait, there's something I need to reveal to you before you think you've heard everything. What you've just learned is only the first level, the surface transformation. There's a much deeper level that Tolle discovered only after years of practice. A level that changes not only how you react to fear, but who you become as a person. Because when you begin to systematically use fear as fuel, when you stop fearing it and start seeking it, something extraordinary happens in your brain. New neural pathways are formed. Pathways that connect sensations of tension with sensations of possibility. Your nervous system literally learns to associate stress with growth. But there's an even deeper secret that only the masters know. Tolle discovered that there's a specific type of fear that's unlike all others. A fear that isn't warning you of an external danger, but of a much more subtle internal danger. It's the fear of becoming too powerful, of shining too brightly, of being too much yourself. This fear is insidious because it disguises itself as humility. It convinces you that it's right to stay small, that it's wise not to risk too much, that it's better not to attract attention. But in reality, it's the most limiting fear of all, because it keeps you in a diminished version of yourself. Tolle calls it the fear of your own greatness, and he says it's the last obstacle separating human beings from their true nature. How do you recognize this fear? It's that strange feeling you get when you're about to do something that could change everything, when you're about to show the world who you really are. It's that cold chill that runs down your spine when you realize you might actually succeed, that you might truly become the version of yourself you've always dreamed of. And paradoxically, this fear is more paralyzing than the terror of failure. Because at least failure keeps you in the comfort zone of victimhood. Success, the full realization of your potential, requires you to take complete responsibility for your greatness. But there's a specific technique to transform even this subtle fear. A technique that Tolle considers so powerful that he hesitates to teach it publicly. When you feel that inner resistance to your own power, when you perceive that voice whispering, "Who do you think you are?" do this. Look that fear in the eyes and ask, "What are you really afraid of?" And listen to the answer, because the answer is always the same. "I'm afraid that if I become all I can be, I won't be able to go back." And it's right. You won't be able to go back. You won't be able to pretend to be small when you know you're big. You won't be able to complain about circumstances when you know you have the power to change them. You won't be able to feel like a victim when you know you're the creator of your reality. And this is terrifying for the ego. Because the ego loves excuses. It loves having someone or something to blame for its unhappiness. But when you fully accept your power, when you transform even this ultimate fear into fuel, you access a level of freedom that very few people experience in life. The freedom to be completely yourself, without compromise, without masks, without excuses. And here we arrive at the most advanced technique Tolle has ever developed. A technique he calls the quantum leap. It's so simple it seems ridiculous, but so powerful it can change the trajectory of your life in an instant. When you're facing something that deeply frightens you, something that could transform everything, instead of analyzing, planning, or preparing, do the opposite. Jump immediately. Don't give your mind time to construct catastrophic scenarios. Don't allow fear to take root and grow. Jump the very moment you feel it, as if you were on a 10-meter diving board. If you think too much, you'll never jump. If you jump instinctively, you fly. But be careful. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being so aware that you recognize the perfect moment to act, and you act without hesitation. It's the difference between impulsivity and deep intuition, between recklessness and enlightened courage. And when you master this ability, when you learn to jump at the right moment without hesitation, you become something Tolle calls a soul in action, a person who is no longer separated between who they are and what they do, who no longer lives in the tension between desire and action, who no longer wastes energy in doubt and indecision. You become a human lightning bolt, pure energy in motion. But there's something more, something that is perhaps the most important secret of all. Tolle discovered that every time you transform fear into action, every time you use that adrenaline surge as fuel to act, you're doing something far deeper than you realize. You're rewriting the story of your soul. You're proving to yourself at a cellular level that you are stronger than your circumstances, that you are bigger than your conditioning, that you are the director of your life, not an actor playing a script written by others. And every time you do this, every time you prove to yourself that you can overcome fear, you access a piece of your true identity, because your true identity is not that fearful person you think you are. Your true identity is that indestructible force that can transform any poison into medicine. It's that courageous presence that can look any storm in the eye and say, "Show me what you have to teach me." It's that pure energy that is not afraid of itself, not afraid of its own power, not afraid of its own greatness. And the more often you access this identity, the more often you show yourself who you really are, the more it becomes your daily reality, to the point where fear is no longer something you suffer. It becomes something you choose to use. It becomes your personal navigational tool toward the highest version of yourself. But I want to share with you a story that Tolle rarely tells, a story that demonstrates just how far this transformation can go. There was a man who had a terrible fear of heights, a fear so paralyzing that he couldn't even climb a ladder. He lived on the ground floor for 30 years to avoid confronting this fear. One day, Tolle taught him the technique of "thank you for the energy." The man began practicing it every time he felt even a hint of dizziness. Within 6 months, he had not only overcome his fear of heights, he had become a paragliding instructor. The same energy that paralyzed him had become his specialty. His greatest terror had transformed into his deepest passion. This is the true alchemy we're talking about. It's not just about managing fear, it's about transforming it so completely that it becomes your superpower. And now I want to ask you a question that could change everything for you. What is that thing you've always dreamed of doing, but that scares you too much to even admit it to yourself? That thing that, when you think about it, you immediately feel that burning poison in your veins, that lightning bolt that runs through your body. That's your roadmap. That's the direction life is calling you toward. That fear is not an obstacle. It's an arrow pointing to your destination. And now that you know the technology to transform that poison into fuel, now that you know how to use that lightning to power your growth, you have no more excuses. You have everything you need to take that quantum leap that will change the trajectory of your existence. But there's one last secret I must share with you, a secret about timing. Tolle says there's a specific moment in every person's life when everything aligns. A moment when the entire universe seems to conspire to push you toward that transformation you've been avoiding for years. And that moment is always preceded by a wave of intense fear, as if life were raising the stakes to force you to choose growth or stagnation. If you're experiencing a period of particularly intense fear, if you feel that everything in your life is pushing you out of your comfort zone, it's no accident. It's time, your time. And you can choose to interpret that pressure as an attack to defend against, or as a cosmic invitation to finally become who you are destined to be. The choice is yours, but now you know you have the technology to transform any fear into pure power. Now you know that that burning poison you felt coursing through your veins was never poison. It was always rocket fuel, and you were always destined to fly among the stars. Fear was just reminding you. Now it's time to ignite the engines. Now it's time to transform that electric surge into pure propulsion. Now it's time to discover just how high you can really go when you stop fighting your own energy and start using it. The poison has transformed. The lightning is ready. You are ready. Take off. But wait a moment, because what you're about to discover now goes beyond everything you've felt so far. It goes beyond personal transformation. It touches something so deep that Tolle himself hesitated for years before revealing it publicly. Because when you completely master this alchemy of fear, when you become a master of this transformation, you access what he calls the quantum field of collective fear. You discover that you're not just transforming your personal fear, you are literally transmuting the fear of thousands of other people who are energetically connected to you. It's as if you become a human transformer, an energy converter that takes fear from the collective field and returns it as pure power. And this is when your life starts to become surreal, because you begin to attract situations and opportunities that seem like impossible synchronicities, as if the universe is rewarding your ability to transmute fear into light. But before you reach this cosmic level, there's something much more concrete and immediate that you need to know. Tolle identified 5 types of fear that require specific techniques, and if you get the technique wrong, if you use the wrong approach for the type of fear you're experiencing, you can worsen the situation instead of improving it. The first is performance anxiety, that feeling before an exam, a presentation, an important date, the pounding heart, the sweaty palms, the mind going blank. For this fear, the thank you for the energy technique is perfect. But there's an upgrade that very few people know. Instead of just saying thank you for the energy, add, and show me how to use it better than I ever have before. This additional phrase reprograms your brain to see that situation not as a test to pass, but as an opportunity to surpass yourself. The second is existential fear, the one that wakes you up at 3 in the morning with questions about who you are, what you're doing here, if your life has meaning. Here it's the deepest and most transformative fear of all. For this fear, Tolle developed a technique he calls the leap into the void. When you feel that existential terror, instead of distracting yourself or seeking reassurance, do the opposite. Immerse yourself completely in that feeling of emptiness. Embrace it. Befriend the mystery of your existence, and something miraculous happens. In that void, you discover a fullness you didn't know existed. In that darkness, you find a light that doesn't need to be turned on because it's always been there. The third is the fear of judgment, the terror of what others will think if you show yourself for who you truly are. If you say what you really think, if you do what you feel you should do. This fear is insidious because it convinces you that safety lies in conformity, that it's better to be accepted than to be authentic. But Tolle discovered something revolutionary about this fear. He discovered that 90% of what you believe others think of you is a projection of your own insecurity. People are too busy worrying about what you think of them to really judge you. And those who do judge you, they're just projecting onto you the parts of themselves that they don't accept. The technique for this fear is radical. Become judgeable. Stop trying to please everyone. Start deliberately expressing opinions that you know some won't share. Show your quirks, your flaws, your embarrassing passions, and discover that when you stop being afraid of judgment, you attract into your world only people who appreciate you for who you truly are. The fourth is the fear of abandonment, the visceral terror of being left alone, of not being enough to keep the people you love. This fear is paradoxical because the more you try to avoid it, the more you attract it. The more you cling to people for fear of losing them, the more you push them away. Tolle's technique for this fear is counterintuitive. Abandon first, not in the sense of leaving the people you love, but of letting go of the need for them to stay, to love without attachment, to enjoy their presence without depending on their permanence. And when you master this, when you love from fullness instead of lack, people naturally begin to gravitate towards you. The fifth is the fear of power, the most subtle and devastating fear of all, the fear of being too much, of shining too brightly, of having too much success. This fear sabotages you just as you're about to break through. It makes you self-sabotage in the final meters before victory. The technique for this fear is the most challenging of all. Become dangerous. Dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to the mediocre. Dangerous to all those who have chosen to remain small. Become so authentically powerful that your mere presence inspires others to rise, or makes them uncomfortable with their stagnation. But when you begin to master these 5 categories, when you develop the ability to instantly recognize what type of fear you're experiencing and apply the right technique, something extraordinary happens. You develop what Tolle calls fearless flow state, a state of consciousness where fear is no longer an obstacle, but an accelerator. In this state, you actively seek out situations that scare you because you know they are portals to higher versions of yourself. You become like a surfer who seeks the biggest waves because he knows they're the ones that give you the most epic rides. But there's still another level, a level that Tolle revealed only in his most advanced seminars, a level he defines as dangerous to teach because it can be misunderstood. It's the technique of fear reverse engineering. Instead of waiting for fear to arrive naturally, you deliberately begin to generate fear to immediately transform it into power. You voluntarily seek out situations that make you uncomfortable, that challenge you, that force you to grow. You become a fear hunter, a collector of discomfort zones, and because every time you voluntarily face a fear, you don't just become stronger, You become more yourself. Each fear conquered is a piece of your true identity, reclaimed from the territory of limitations. And when you do this systematically, when you make fear-facing a daily practice, your life begins to transform at quantum speeds. Projects you'd procrastinated on for years, you complete in weeks. Conversations you'd avoided forever, you initiate today. Dreams you'd deemed impossible become your everyday reality. But beware, there's a side effect to this level of mastery that you must be ready to face. When you become a master of fear transformation, when you develop this ability to transmute any negative energy into creative fuel, you begin to disrupt the energetic balance of those around you. People who've chosen to remain in their fears start to feel uncomfortable in your presence. Your fearless energy confronts them with their self-imposed limitations, and they react in two ways. Either they get inspired and begin their transformation journey, or they attack you, trying to bring you back down to their level of fear. Tolle calls this the price of freedom. When you break free from the chains of your fears, you disrupt the system of those who have chosen to remain chained. But here comes the most important choice of your life. Do you stay true to your growth despite external resistance, or do you turn back to avoid disturbing others? The majority choose to turn back. It's easier, safer, more socially acceptable. But if you choose to move forward, if you choose to remain faithful to your transformation despite resistance, you access the final level. The level Tolle calls Fear Alchemy Master. At this level, you don't just transform your fears. You transform the fears of anyone who enters your energetic field. Your presence automatically becomes calming for the anxious, inspiring for the depressed, energizing for the weary. You become what in ancient times was called a healer. Not because you've studied healing techniques, but because you've mastered the art of transmuting the densest energy into the subtlest energy. And this is when your life ceases to be just your life. It becomes a service to the collective evolution of humanity. Every fear you transform, every limitation you overcome, every breakthrough you achieve, creates quantum waves that make it easier for others to do the same. You become an energetic trailblazer, someone who opens new paths in collective consciousness. But here's the most beautiful part of it all, the part that gives me chills every time I think about it. When you reach this level of mastery, when you become a true alchemist of fear, you discover it was never about you. It was always about what you could become to serve something greater than yourself. The fear you felt at the beginning, the one that seemed so personal and paralyzing, was actually the universe preparing you for a cosmic task. It was training you to become an energy transformer for the entire human species. And now, when you feel that substance coursing through your veins, when you perceive that lightning bolt traversing your body, you know exactly what to do. It's no longer poison to be avoided. It's no longer fuel to be used. It's pure, raw material from which to create miracles. It's cosmic energy waiting to be forged into changes that benefit not only you, but anyone privileged enough to enter your orbit. You have become what humanity has been waiting for, a human being who has learned to transform any darkness into light. And every time you do it, every time you take fear and transform it into power, you're contributing to the global awakening of our species. You're proving that it's possible, that you can live without being limited by your fears, that you can be completely human and completely free at the same time. The poison in your veins has become the elixir of emotional immortality. The lightning in your body has become the energy source to illuminate not only your life, but the life of everyone you meet. You are no longer just a person who has overcome their fears. You are a cosmic healer who uses the alchemy of fear to elevate the entire vibration of the planet. And now that you know, now that you have access to this level of awareness and power, there's only one question that remains. What will you do with this gift? How will you use this ability to transform any negative energy into a source of creativity and service? Because now that you know that poison is medicine, that fear is an invitation, that every discomfort is a portal, now you have no more excuses to remain small. Now is the time to shine with all the intensity you are capable of. Now is the time to become the human lightning bolt you were always destined to be. The world is waiting for your light. It's time to turn it on. It's time to fly beyond every limit you thought existed. It's time to prove that an awakened human being can transform anything into gold, anything, even fear, especially fear.